Excellent. Right. Well, thank you, Alex. Yeah, so we have got some slides we're going to go through this evening. But as Tanya said, this is an open session. We really want your feedback. We want your interaction. There are a few parts where we pause and we ask some questions. And as there's not many on the call, we can always just come off mute whenever you want, or you can use the chat box, but it's up to you. So I'm just going to share my screen. Lauren, is that okay?
All good.
Wonderful, thank you. Right, so you can see the Learn to Win team on the screen. So just to kind of clarify who we are, so I'm David Rayner, I'm a technical aquatics manager. And as you can see, I'm based in your area. So if we ever get back on the road, then I would be your local kind of contact and potentially come to any kind of conferences that you guys might be attending. And I'll let Lauren introduce herself as well.
Thanks, Dave. So I do the same as Dave. I'm also a technical aquatics manager, but you can see I'm actually, my dot isn't quite right. I'm a little bit more south, but it's been lovely because actually COVID has allowed us to work across the country and with each other. So this is something a little bit different for myself and Dave to work on.
Thank you, Lauren. And as you can see, other people on the screen, you've got Alex Barrett, who's our colleague, another technical aquatics manager in the north. Ashley Jones is the water safety and drowning prevention manager, and he has a good link to school swimming. Andrew at the top right is our water wellbeing specialist, and he works in the health team. And then our line manager, Katie. So yeah, this is our Learn to Swim team. And as you say, you've got myself and Lauren on the call today to present. So we've got a couple of outcomes we're going to hit today. So we're looking to discuss your plans for the future. And we've got a section where we're going to talk about the kind of things that you should be considering for what you should be doing, or you could be doing at the moment, and then what you should be planning to do from September onwards. So we've got a section on the actual plans. And then we've got a little section on about the sports premium, where we're going to talk about what things you've got available to use your sports premium for. We know that there was a extension, or your funding has been rolled over, so potentially there's more money there for this year or next academic year to spend on it. So we're going to have a little bit of a talk about the premium and then what kind of things you can invest into. So they're the two outcomes. And to start with, Lauren's just going to give us a quick kind of overview as where we are as a country with the pools. And so Lauren, over to you, please.
Thanks, Dave. So just to give you just a little bit of an update of where we're at, we have got around 950 out of 1,050 pools reopened, which is fantastic news. Obviously, we'd love to see that at 100%, but time will tell. We are still under tight restrictions. We're well aware of that, and the fact that there are so many operators and schools out there working so hard within those restrictions as well. Obviously, we are expecting pools to return to normal operating after the 19th of July. We also understand that that will be down to each individual operator's kind of decisions and their procedures, but that's a really exciting date to be looking forward to. Just getting those site restrictions lifted as and when they really feel that they need to. But I guess the most beneficial thing for this call is that by September, by the time you return to those facilities, those restrictions would have lifted. They would have had actually that summer to really figure out what works for them and be ready to accept those school lessons back in-house, which is really exciting. So, Dave, are we going to just drop these questions in the chat box, or were we going to go with the poll? Do correct me. I couldn't remember what we decided to do on this one.
Yeah, as it's only a small group, I think what we're going to do, Tanya, is I know Alex has put the kind of questions on a Word document, but it's probably worth just going through the questions and just any kind of feedback that you guys have got. So, Tanya, I can see you've unmuted yourself. Is there anything you wanted to add there?
Yeah, I was just going to say you've got, we've already got some answers going into the chat box for them. So I think if people are happy to put it in the chat, or if you'd like to speak, then please unmute and just sort of give us a heads up on those three particular questions, really, just so that we've got an idea of what's actually been happening with swimming.
Yeah, fab. Thanks, Tanya. Yeah, it's really nice when you do get a smaller group, because it's more interaction. So sometimes we go with the polls for the larger audiences, but really interesting to know what your feedback is, those of you that have joined us today.
Lauren, I can't actually see the chat box my end, so
I have. So we've got, I can't remember who this is. This is for, oh, this is Sharon. Sorry, just found it. So Sharon's actually said they haven't had a chance to actually put any lessons on since April. And they have, however, added some water safety activities to your classroom, which is amazing to hear. But they haven't had the opportunity to make use of the Academy yet. However, they have covered some of this topic area through working with their local sports partnership and through PSHE. So some real positives there as well. And we'll cover this a little bit more in a minute as well, Sharon. It's not for us to say that anybody should have returned to school swimming lessons if they've not been able to. We're here to support and guide you just as much as possible. Sharon just said we also having someone to, so they've introduced first aid into that educational part of their school as well, which is amazing. If anybody else can't find the chat, if you want to come off mute and share your answers or ask anybody else, please feel free to. But thank you, Sharon, for sharing those answers with us. I will give it a couple of seconds because well, more than a couple of seconds, because I've learned that I'm really impatient with chat box typing speed. It's that whole thing of a microwave minute, like it feels like a lifetime, right?
So Lauren, you gave them 5 seconds that time, mate. So you know.
Just yeah.
Yeah, sorry. If I click on chat box this end, I think it's hiding behind one of my screens, and I don't want to start messing around, or else it might disappear. So
that's okay. No worries. I'm in the chat box, and I'll be in the chat box for the whole of this session. So fire
right.
any questions away. Shall we move on, Dave? And I'll pause if.
So I mean, the only 2 statements we put on here was the general feedback is getting back into the pool has been a problem. So if you haven't got back into the pool, then I don't feel guilty. Don't feel like, oh my God, I've let my pupils down. It's not, you know, you're not on your own. It has been a problem for people to get back into the water. And there's 2 things there. You know, some pools have just not been willing or not been in a position to take large groups into their facility. Obviously, everyone was concerned about the virus and about it spreading. So, you know, that was one side. And I fully appreciate if you're head teacher on this call, or if you're, you know, you might not be comfortable with letting 30 of your pupils out of the school into a public place to bring them back in again. I know we had a very quick chat about bubbles earlier, didn't we? I think Keith, is it? I think you come up and said bubbles have been challenging. And I think, you know, if you're going to let all those children out into the public area, then we truly understand that there's reasons why you haven't done that. So, you know, so don't worry if you haven't been able to do it, but it's great to hear that some of you have done some classroom activities and that. So it's always good you can always tick some of the water safety boxes by doing the theoretical work rather than just the practical work as well.
I told you I was being impatient, Dave. See, now people are in the chat box.
There you go.
It's always the way. I will never learn. So this is a really, really important one to know as well, and it's up for discussion. And we really hope that with the returning to normal operations for all of the pools throughout the summer will help this. But is it Sharon? I keep forgetting. Sharon said how they actually struggled to just get a slot in any pool, and what, from the sounds of things, Sharon, you were finding that they were actually needing more of their own pool time, depending on whether it's a private operator, another local school who's got a pool, whether it's council run. I completely understand that actually they're having to take up so much more of that pool time than ever before. So completely feel for you there, and hopefully that barrier will then be removed, ready for September's booking, which is really important. did we say it was Keith or Kevin? I've forgotten, sorry. He's just said about he's going to look into Oak Academy lessons, which is really good. Sorry if I've got your name wrong.
It's Kevin.
Oh,
yeah,
there we go. I wasn't sure then. But yeah, definitely have a look at Oak Academy lessons. I think Dave's going to touch on that in a little bit as well, to give you a little bit more info there. And then I'm not sure who this is, but actually this sounds like something that I've not come across in all of my school swimming discussions, kind of top up lessons or using that sports premium. But actually this person's working with a family swimming voucher system. So actually they're using that funding to then provide those pupils the opportunity to go swimming with their family, as an opportunity for more time to access a pool. So yeah, I've not heard that one before, but great idea if anybody else hasn't also thought of that. That's pretty much it in the chat box though, Dave. I'm not sure if you've come across a system like that before, where they've used the funding in that way.
Yeah, we had a chat about it, I think, earlier in the year, about potentially using your funding. So that's great. If someone's actually taken that on, that's brilliant. And you know, we have got a bit later on that I know Tanya's got an example about Hertfordshire Uni and about using that kind of subsidisation of lessons, but that's great. There's one of you's already done that, so that's really, really impressive. So well done there. Okay, right, let's skip on to the next bit. So what we're going to do now, we're going to look at planning for the future. We're going to break it down into what potentially you can do before September, and then what you should get in place or try to get in place for after September for the new academic year. So as I say, we're going to start before September, and we've already spoke about this, but classroom or homework activities, you know, like if you haven't been able to get into the water, or if you haven't been able to bring any kind of water safety into your classrooms, which again, truly understand you guys are very busy, but now is the time you might want to think, let's try some of these things. I've got so many templates that I've shared some with Tanya, but I will share some more. So after today's call, we're going to share lots and lots of resources, and it could literally be a case of sharing some of these resources with your pupils, just to kind of raise their awareness. And the classic one on there is the flags, for a beach flag. You know, a lot of people are going to be staycationing this year, and the UK beaches have got these types of flags on. You know, so even if you did a little exercise around the flags, it'd be quite interesting, you know, just to give them that little bit of knowledge, so when they go to a beach, they can actually understand what's going on. But yeah, and I'll put at the top classroom or homework. You know, if there's some things we can just send down at home and get the children to start to think about, like water safety, then that'd be great. But as I say, we've got lots of templates I'm going to share you after this call, so you guys should make it really easy. You can just share them out and use them as however you want. We mentioned Oak Academy earlier. So from what I've been told, the Oak Academy is free for you guys to access, and there is a water safety lesson there. I would, if you can use it, if there's any reason why you can't, then please understand, don't worry about it. But if you can, I would promote this to your pupils. Again, it could be a kind of a summer holiday activity. It could be a classroom activity. But if you can fit this into your program at all, that would be great. Lauren, did someone say they'd done the Oak Academy earlier, or was it someone that hadn't had chance?
No. Kevin said he's going to have a look into it. He hasn't quite explored that yet. And then I think it was Sharon who said no, but they may have used some of the content from it, or already tried to embed that water safety. So nobody's actually already explored the Oak Academy, but it's a great resource. Yeah,
if you get chance, then again, these slides will be shared, and you'll have all the links and all the information. But could be something else to consider for, you know, holidays or a classroom activity as well. We are going to talk about top-up lessons, but then again, I truly understand that there's only got 3.5 weeks or so before the children go off on their summer holidays. But these are the options we spoke about last time, and you can see we had vouchers on here from previously. So it's great to hear that someone has taken on that and used their, I mean, whoever, I don't know if the person who put that note is happy to come off mute and talk about it, but if you are, then please feel free to do so. But yeah, the vouchers have been something that's worked really well, and it sounds like it is a good option. If you were happy to come off mute, then please just drop a note in the chat box and Lauren will pick it up. But if
That'll be me, sorry.
No, don't apologise.
Yeah, it's Amanda.
Hello, Amanda.
Hi. No, we worked with One Life in Harpenden, who normally you can buy a family swim for 10 vouchers. And what we found is that our traditional non-swimmers tend to be the families who don't really invest in that type of activity anyway. But also the younger siblings then have come through with better and more positive and greater experience at swimming. So we're keeping that up. It's been really, really beneficial now the pools have opened again.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
That's just such a great idea. And like you said, Dave will probably agree with me, but that knock-on effect to the younger age groups as well, you really are catching a good portion of families that are going swimming, really.
So did you guys buy the vouchers via your school sports premium budget? Is that the kind of way you did it?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, they invoice us and then we pay through that way, and then we issue the vouchers to the families.
Can we catch up after the call? Not this afternoon, but it'd be nice to kind of have a chat about this in more detail if you're happy to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. If you want to, if you're happy to, just drop us. You can send us a private message with an email address. So it'd just be interesting to kind of get a bit, not necessarily an official case study, but an understanding of how you did it. It'd be really nice. So if you're happy to, if you want to drop us an email via a private message, then that'd be wonderful. But yeah, so thanks for contributing. That's really nice. But yeah, you can see all the other options on there. You've got like everything from crash courses, and then we did speak about secondary school engagement, which is really hard. Historically, it's not really something that's happened, but it's something that we would encourage as best we can. We, not myself, but we as an organisation are speaking to the DfE and trying to build that link as much as we can around water safety across both curriculums. But it's always good, even if you can have a local kind of link to a secondary school as well. So other things before September, it's kind of making sure we've got the communication in place. So make sure we're talking to the lesson provider, we're talking to the parents, we're talking to your internal team as well, and just trying to, make sure everyone knows what's happening in from September onwards. But then also speaking to the pupils as well. So trying to get them excited about going swimming. And if you can do the voucher system we just spoke about for a summer holiday activity, then that'd be amazing. That'd be brilliant. But communication was one of those things we need to make sure that we have in place, and we are doing it all the time, as from now, but ongoing from that point on as well. As I mentioned earlier, I've got lots of templates I'm going to share with Tanya on how to communicate. You can use the text, put it on your own headed paper, however you want to use it. But there's lots of documents that I can share with you, and you can use them as much as you want, or cut pieces out. It's your kind of it's there for you to use. So don't worry about thinking, oh my God, I've got to write a letter to all the parents. We'll share the documents with you, and then by all means use them, and just see, just maintain that communication. And one other point that we spoke about, we actually had a chat about this before you guys all dialed in, was reporting the attainment. And everyone truly understands, the Department for Education, AFBI, Swim England, everyone, all the sports partnerships know that attainment is probably going to be lower this year than it's been before. And odds on it's probably going to be lower next year as it has been done before, because of the knock-on effect of the closure of the pools. But what we've kind of, our message is to be honest, and then just tell us what the true picture is. And then, we are there to, if we can get a better understanding as to what's going on, then potentially there could be more support for schools to try and get, if it's more funding or if it's more training or anything, it's good. We need to know what's going on. So the table you can see on the screen is probably what you're quite familiar with. We got it from the AFP website that kindly Tanya pointed us in the right direction for it. And these are the kind of things that obviously you need to report on. But the message here is please be honest. Try not, we understand it might be lower than previous years, but just be honest with what you've got, and even if you haven't been able to take your year 6 swimming, obviously you have to go on previous data as best we can. So reporting attainment is that other thing we need to get done before September. Okay. Lauren, is there any questions about anything that's come in about that section before we go on to the next bit?
Yeah, there is one thing on attainment actually, Dave. So we've got almost a statement, not really a question, saying that they couldn't provide any data this year, and had to just put in that they were unable to swim due to COVID. Now, Dave, Tanya, do jump in if you see it any differently to me, but it might be that you had a lack of data for those specific pupils, but do not forget, and this goes out to everybody, do not forget that even if your swimmers didn't swim this year, if they've previously swam with the school and you have some data, you can use that to then report your findings. So it doesn't matter whether you're reporting on that year group and they swam 2 years ago, that is still valid data. So just if I've made that sound exactly how it should do, and it might just be that the data wasn't there, or it's not been stored, or it's a new year group that haven't accessed swimming before. I completely understand, but just if anybody else on the call or anybody else listening to the recording wasn't aware of that, please do make sure you try and report as much as possible.
That sounds great. Tanya, would you like to add anything to that?
No, that's exactly right. So if you've got a year 6 class at the moment and they swam when they were in year 4, that's the data that you would enter if you've not been able to do any additional top-up swimming or anything with them. As Sharon said, they hadn't accessed swimming before, so there's no previous data. So you're correct that you do need to say that it's 0, and that's completely understandable. And I think that's what they want to know, because obviously when the website checks are done over the summer, from I think your deadline date is the 31st of July to have everything uploaded. The checks start throughout August, and then that data is then shared nationally with Swim England from every county. So they've got a really good idea of where everything is with swimming and what needs to be done to move this forward, and obviously try and bridge that gap of these children that have missed out on their opportunities.
Excellent. Right, thank you for that. Right, we're going to move on then. So what we're looking at now is what we can do for the new academic year, and what can we have in place and what we need to plan for the future. So before we went into this kind of section, I just wanted to, some of you may not be 100% familiar with what the national curriculum outcomes are, but just to clarify, so we're looking at perform safe self-rescue in different water-based situations. We're looking at that swimming competently, confidently and proficiently over 25 metres. And we always say at least 25 metres, so 25 metres is the minimum distance, so they should be pushing up to 25 and further. And then demonstrating a range of strokes, which obviously is front crawl, backstroke, or breaststroke. But we're looking at like simultaneous movements or alternating movements. So they're the national curriculum outcomes that we're working towards. I'm sure most of you know that, but I wanted to put it on the screen just to clarify in case any of you were a little bit unsure of that. And to start with, the first assessment lesson. So this is the kind of thing that you should already be aware of, but for want of a better term, we're trying to steer away from the sheep dip technique, which is where you've probably done it before, where you've had a line of children, or seen it before, you have a line of children on the pool side, they jump in, they swim across the pool, and the teacher ticks a box, they get out, and the next one jumps in, they swim across the pool. So for the first lesson, that child's probably sitting on the side for 95% of the time. So we've got a little video here of how you could carry out an assessment lesson with having all the children all interacting at the same time. So hopefully this will work and you guys can hear the commentary.
First assessment lesson. The first assessment lesson should be a fun and positive experience for all pupils. Activities within the lesson should incorporate a number of core aquatic skills to assess the competencies of each pupil. Pupils should participate in activities that help them demonstrate aquatic breathing, flotation, moving, travelling or swimming around the pool, and safe entry and exit procedures using steps, ladder or swivel. Pupils should be in the water and active for at least 80% of the lesson. Following the first assessment lesson, the qualified swimming teacher, supported by school staff, will be able to group pupils accordingly.
So that's just a little example of what you could do as a lesson. And obviously this is with the swimming teachers, but it's with the support of you guys as school staff. And that showed how you could do like a mixed ability activity in the water with different swimmers, you know, so the whole class could get in. And one thing I'll just say here, everyone's probably got that club swimmer in their class that can swim really well and they can do butterfly and they get in and say, I'm the most wonderful swimmer in the world. And they probably are. But one thing you say to that child is things like, right, we'll take your goggles off and swim around without your goggles on, because sometimes that's the thing that can make them go, oh, right, this is a bit different. But so for the first assessment, that's the kind of thing you should be looking at. And on this slide, these are the type of things you should be assessing. Following this session, I have got a checklist that covers these points that you guys can use as a template. And this is the kind of communication you do with your lesson providers. So you could say to them, I've got this first assessment sheet, you know, this is what we're kind of looking at. And it might be a case of they already have this in place, but then some pool operators might appreciate having some kind of like interaction with you guys, so you know what, you know, how to assess that child and how to get them into the water. So as I say, you've got the points on there, but it's very simple about just doing quick assessments about floating, about going under the water, about traveling, you know, and just kind of like getting an understanding of what kind of, they should be a shallow end swimmer or a deep end swimmer, or if you're fortunate, you've got 3 stations, that intermediate swimmer, you know, so just trying to use that assessment, that first lesson effectively, rather than just getting them to swim once and get out again, swim once and get out. And then, you know, this gives them a bit more interaction. Lauren, would you like to add anything there on the assessment side of things, or is anything in the chat box?
Yeah, definitely. There's one thing that I added in the chat box because it often gets flagged when we show this video. We know that that is such a nice pool environment to go to, and that's not necessarily representative of the country. So I did put in the chat box, just remember that although we're looking at swimmers without flotation equipment on, they're in standing depth water, you know, it's a very nice setup, which that does exist, that does happen. However, swimming teachers and any of you that delivered, that scenario can be done in deeper water with flotation equipment. And if you do need support, reach out to us, because we do believe that teaching in deeper water can still be safe, and we still can get all of the swimmers in the majority of scenarios. So I added that, but really good point actually made before I added that, just saying that actually, I think of Sharon again, she just said she hates how they do the sheep dip. So I think we've got 2 scenarios there, Dave, and I think it's really important for us to flag that actually it might not be the school's decision of how that first assessment is happening. Dave, from your experience, what's the best route to go down to work with the pool provider, the instructors, to try and change that historic way of assessing?
I think we've got an opportunity now that we're in a very unique situation where COVID has affected a lot of things. I think now is the time to speak to that operator and speak to your provider, and you'll have access to this presentation afterwards. You'll have access to that video, and it could be just a case of just saying, look, we had a meeting with Swim England and they showed us that this is the way we could be assessing the children. This is the checklist that they've recommended that we use, you know, and now they should, hopefully they'll be open to those kind of changes. So I would say use the templates, use the videos, you know, speak to your operators, and just, you know, use this time to make those changes. You know, like, we don't want to do the sheep dip. And I'll be truly honest, when I was a 19-year-old swimming teacher, I used to let them do the sheep dip. I was that bloke that went, jump in, swim across, on your back, get out, jump in, swim across, on your back, get out. And it was like, and I can cringe looking back at myself like 20 years ago. I'd be like, I was doing all these things I'm telling people not to do now. But they're the kind of things that if you've seen something you're not kind of comfortable with, or something you see today and you think, you know what, I think we should be doing that, make contact with your operators. What we have got as well within Swim England, we have our engagement team, and we do speak to the operators via an engagement team on a weekly basis on the network, and we will continue to kind of promote this. And I think what we can do from here is we can do Lauren, have we got, I don't know if we've got webinar on school swimming coming up, but we can always get another one in.
Yeah, I think we have got one due maybe in the autumn. We've just delivered one, so that will be online that we can send ASAP. But there will be another one kind of September, October time, definitely.
Yeah, so we are engaging with the operators as well. So we'll be pushing it from our side. If you guys pick up on something today and you think, you know what, we really should be doing that, then by all means, you know, go through that. Use the tools we're given, use the resources. You know, you'll have access to this presentation, you have access to that video, you know, so it's all, you know, if we can attack it from both sides, hopefully we can change the way that people are either delivering that school swimming lessons, or how they're, you know, how they're assessing to start with. But another thing we need to look at is things like schemes of work. Again, I've got a nice template that you guys can use that you'll get after this. And the scheme of work is very simple. Like you can see on the screen at the moment, it's literally week number, activities, what the outcomes are, and some notes on the end. So we're not talking about writing loads of massive lesson plans. We have got lesson plans that you guys can use, but the minimum we should have is some kind of scheme of work. You know, and as a school, you're well within your rights to say to your operator, said, oh, brilliant, we've booked in for school swimming next year. Can you just send me the scheme of work you're going to be working towards with my pupils? And if they can't do that, then you could then go, actually, I've spoken to Swim England, they've given me this scheme of work, you know, and just trying to, because the minimum they need is some kind of schemes of work. Because the message we always give to swimming teachers is there's such a difference between school swimming lessons and after school swimming lessons. Again, 19-year-old Dave used to do, if he had a Monday, I used to teach on a Monday 10 till 12, 1:30 till 3, 4 till 6. That was my session. All right. The mornings and the early afternoon was schools, and the evening was private lessons. And in the evening, if I was doing a backstroke session, I'll think, you know what, I'm just going to do a backstroke session for my schools, which is fine, but you just have to consider what the outcomes are, consider the national curriculum, consider what they should be working towards. So scheme of work is one that you guys are well within your rights to say to the operator. You don't have to be aggressive or rude. You can just say, it'd be really nice to know what you guys are going to be working towards to help my pupils achieve the national curriculum. And as I say, if they can't provide that, you will get a template, an example that you guys could share or you could use. And if any of you are running your own lessons, you might have your own pool, then this will give you that kind of guidance as to what you should be or could be doing for week by week. So schemes of work is another one. Lauren, I'm just going to pause for a second. Anything on schemes of work come through?
Somebody's commented on saying ours is in addition to normal lessons. I might have missed something there, but I'm not sure what that comment was in relation to, so apologies. I was just looking at the specifics, and Tanya, you might be able to answer this in a little bit more depth actually. Yeah, so you've already gone in with it. Just questions around actually what can the Sports Premium be used for? And I've just popped the link in there just to give you that clarification. But as Tanya said, yes, it's used for additional and top-up swimming, which, sorry, if that's Amanda, that makes sense. You're saying yours is in addition. No worries. It's because I jumped in and out of web pages there to try and find the link.
Yeah, no, their normal national curriculum swimming should be covered by their curriculum delivery and costings via that route. But when they identify any children that haven't met those outcomes, they can then have additional lessons or additional ways of trying to get those children to meet that end criteria, and then that's when the PE premium can be used.
Thanks, Tanya. We're actually going to touch on a little bit more around how that premium can be used within the world of swimming as well in a couple of slides, so hopefully that will help too.
Great, thank you. And this is one that me and Tanya got chatting about on Tuesday. So top-up lessons for next year. So if we have, like, we're talking about like the current year 5 pupils that have missed out, and your normal operating would be you run your swimming lessons years 3 and 4. So we know there's pupils there that have missed out. So you offering top-up lessons, and we had earlier about the voucher system, about doing it during the half terms, like October, February and May. You could do it around Christmas if you want as well, but obviously that's an awkward time. But, and using that sports premium to subsidise the lessons for pupils, who might not have achieved that national curriculum expectation. But if it's outside of your normal operating, then, this is an option. Tanya, would you mind going through the example you had with Hertfordshire Uni?
Yeah, no, the university approached me about a week or so ago about a proposal of whether schools would be interested in them organising some sort of learn to swim lessons that it's like the intensive swim courses really, where the identified students from those schools could be sent, and obviously part of the PE and sport premium from the school could be used to subsidise those lessons from that point of view. So they're looking at putting a proposal together that would offer those sessions for the half terms and possibly the Easter, but it was also something whether it's something that I can work with Dave and Lauren, and we can look at some of the other leisure providers across the county, and whether that's something that can be done in order for the schools to be able to target them. And it would be trying to identify locations where the children haven't necessarily got to travel very far, because I'm conscious sometimes your actual target cohort haven't maybe got parental support as much, and therefore that might be an issue getting them to the venues and so on. And my other thought was whether there are local secondary schools where primaries could cluster together and again work with their local secondary as to whether that's a possibility of running some of these courses during the holidays from that point of view. And again, that might be a piece of work where if the schools come together and work with some of the school games organisers across the county who've got that relationship with the heads of PE in the secondary, we just felt that it was a way of then trying to bridge this gap that has been created. And obviously we're conscious that, the current year 5s at the moment may be the ones that have missed out the most, because we were thinking that come September, for some schools, there may be 3 year groups that they're looking at. One is what will be the current year group that would normally swim, and you've obviously got 2 year groups that have missed out over the past 2 years. So yeah, Sharon, I might have to double check on that one about paying a teacher or a TA to take them, but that might be something, because I know you can obviously put money into transport, and there may be a way around it that's costed into those top-up swimming lessons, so to speak. So on your premium, it would show, from that point of view. But again, yes, I think that may well be a possibility. But it's trying to sow those seeds now so that we can work with those different providers. So not just the university, who are really keen to offer, but we appreciate the university, it's Central Hearts, and it doesn't necessarily then cater for everybody. But if we could get with some of the other leisure providers and the secondary schools across the county that have got pools, it's opening doors to a lot more people, really.
Excellent, thank you very much. And then the final part on this section is that final assessment. So on the screen at the moment, you can see the 3 national curriculum expectations, and then below them, there are a few bullet points of the kind of things you should consider, or the swimming teachers should consider when they're carrying out their final assessment. Again, there's a template available that you guys will get access to after this call, which will be a kind of, we've tried to make it a really simple tool, and it'll be a case of a tick box exercise. And if a child can do X, Y, and Z, then yes, they can then achieve this part of the national curriculum. You know, and it's kind of what we're trying to do is clarify what Swim England think are what you need to do to be able to perform safe self-rescue. So we're making it quite just a tick box. You know, it's things like treading water for 30 seconds, floating on your back, you know, like entering and exiting the water properly. So it's just kind of looking at that kind of, you know, we're going to make it really easy. So again, as an operator, as a school, speaking to an operator, you can say, these are the kind of things we need to assess you on. We've got an initial assessment sheet, we've got the scheme of work, and then we've got the final assessment sheet at the end. So we're trying to give you that package to go, that's what we want to deliver. This is our package. Because I truly understand that swimming, that you guys as teachers, swimming is one of 100 things you have to think about each week. So what we're trying to do is make it quite simple for you guys to do. So as I say, there's a final assessment template that we shared with you afterwards that then you can use, or again, share that with your operator, share it with your provider, say, as from September, these are the kind of things we want to work towards. And you know, hopefully it will have, you know, some of them might come back and say, oh, we already do that, you know, which is great. But some of them might think, actually, this is really helpful. So yeah, so that's the section, that was that section around what you should do, you know, what we recommend you do. So that was obviously from when you come back in September, you know, you're going to get a selection of resources that you can use, and then, you know, communicate with your partner, your providers. And then, yeah, hopefully we'll have a kickstart session. And that whole thing of trying to make up for those previous groups that missed out, you know, like that holiday activity thing, that's the other thing we need to think of. So that's that section there. I'm going to pause here. Lauren, is there any more questions around that?
No, I think we're all good.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Right. So Lauren's now going to just go through the sports premium, and Tanya, by all means, if you want to jump in here and contribute, then please feel free to do so. So I'll pass on to Lauren now.
Absolutely, yes. Let's do this. Dave, are you okay to go to the next slide for me? So we have already covered a little bit in the chat box around this, but this is taken from the Department of Education. So you can use the PE and sports premium to fund the professional development and training that is available to schools to train staff to support high quality swimming and water safety lessons for their pupils. So that's something I referred to literally a couple of slides ago, just saying, actually, there are other opportunities for you to use that funding other than just the actual funding of those top-up lessons or additional lessons, which I'll talk a little bit about in the next slide or two. You can also use the PE and sports premium to provide additional top-up lessons to pupils who have not been able to meet the 3 national curriculum requirements for swimming and water safety. So that's pretty much what we touched on, and the little bit more information that Tanya went into for us. Now, if we go on to the next slide, this is probably an area again that, again, Tanya, you might actually have a different view on this, but I always find that people aren't aware that they can use that funding pot for the training opportunities. I always think this is a big talking point to say, actually, this could really support your school swimming provision. And I think it might have been Sharon who actually said, it sounds like she's going to a pool operator and it's their in-house staff that are delivering the lessons. However, the school teachers, anybody within your school environment could go down this route of then taking up a training opportunity. So we have a national curriculum training program, and we have 2 different training courses that you could go on, or your school could choose to take that route. And we have the support teacher of school swimming. Now, once completed, the holder will be able to actively assist and support a more qualified teacher. candidates can then progress to the second training programme, which is the next one below, which is the teacher of school swimming. So once completed, the holder will be qualified to plan and evaluate session plans in line with the national curriculum and teach independently in a school swimming programme. And I think this is just such a big talking area of looking at your school provision over the next, 3 to 5 years, if not longer. How do you want that approach? How much more, I don't want to say control, that's not quite the right word, but how much more of an influence would this give you if your staff were delivering these swimming lessons, or if your staff had these qualifications and they were delivering in partnership with in-house qualified teachers as well? And it's not saying one's better than the other, but it might create an opportunity that your school weren't aware of before that may give you a bigger impact on swimming lessons. Sharon's actually said, and yes, this is common, I have heard this quite a few times, some of the pools near us will only allow their own instructors in the pool. They say it's due to insurance. Dave, I don't know if you've got anything to comment on that, or we just keep stum. It will be down to the hire agreement. You're absolutely right, and we understand that that's a barrier. If their hire agreement is that you hire their pool and their staff, I completely understand the frustration. Now, what I would say to that is, can you meet them in the middle and actually look at that support teacher of school swimming opportunity and actually get your ratios down? So if you've got a group of beginners who are being delivered, who are having lessons being delivered to them by one of their level 2 swimming teachers, so that's one member of qualified staff. If you brought a support teacher of school swimming alongside, you're then reducing the ratio and influencing that swimming lesson that little bit more. So I wouldn't say you're a complete brick wall. I would say there's potentially negotiation there. If I've made that, you're almost, you're just taking your staff along to support the lessons and to bring those ratios down. So actually those swimmers get more attention, they get more teacher time. Dave, would you agree with that suggestion or see it in a different light at all?
So my message here is these qualifications do not replace a fully qualified swimming teacher. These qualified people support the level 2 teacher, because these qualifications do go into how to teach swimming and all the kind of basics, but it doesn't go into as much depth, obviously as much depth as a fully qualified swimming teacher. So these qualifications are there to reduce the ratios, to give the children a better experience of swimming, and but as Lauren said, it's down to the pool operator to decide how they want to run their own pool. We can offer advice and recommendations, and our recommendation would be to encourage schools to come onto poolside, encourage teachers to come on poolside, like to get you guys to be able to work with the teachers. But yeah, so you just kind of think of these are enhancements to your teachers to support the fully qualified kind of teachers.
Thanks, Jay. Yeah, that might not always be clear. You will always need a member of their staff on poolside, and Amanda has just given us a really good example that they actually go down this route. Like I said, even if you had 12 in a class, but yet there's one of their members of staff, and then Amanda, she says she actually gets in the water with her class, you've taken that ratio down to technically 1 to 6 instead of 1 to 12. It really will enhance the children's learning experience. So yeah, really good to hear that you already do that, Amanda. Okay, no more questions coming in on that one. So I'm going to talk a little bit around our school swimming and water safety charter. If anybody has come across this before, drop a yes in the chat box. And for any of you who don't know, we effectively have 6 core awards with 2 additional awards that you can see on the screen there. which are Safe Self-Rescue Award and an Aquatic Skills Award. Now, we also launched last year a Foundations Core Awards as well, and they're just stripped back outcomes that really encourage those swimmers who may be progressing a little bit slower than expected, or they may have SEND, so they need that longer time and more kind of stepping stones to progress as well. So our School Swimming and Water Safety Charter is open to the operator and you as a school. That's something that's really key to us. That throughout this whole presentation today, myself and Dave have talked about how we want the operator to understand the purpose and the aims of school swimming, and of course the schools know the purpose and the aims of school swimming as well, but we want everybody from each side to understand that. So there's the link below. We will make sure you get that link. I would definitely go and check it out in a little bit more depth. There is a hub, there are physical resources that your school get. You get access to the certificates as well. So there's that reward and recognition element that's really important as well. And the best thing is, this gets the communication home to the parents. What is their child currently doing and what are they achieving? And is really going to help spread that awareness of the importance of school swimming too. So yeah, I could talk about this all day long, which I won't, but just have a look on our website or drop myself or Dave an email if you've got any more questions, if you haven't looked into this before, and we're more than happy to help. Okay, Dave, are we on to the next question, or are we Q&A? Dave, this is all yours.
Yeah, I mean, all I wanted to say at the end, by all means, you've got any questions, now's the time to ask the questions. But my message was, it could be the time to do something different. You know, like we're in a very unique situation, not just in swimming, but in schooling and education. You know, like it's all going to be up in the air for the next 2 to 3 years. You know, so now's the time to try something a bit different. You know, using those holiday activities. You know, maybe taking them on a crash course. Just getting in. You know, training some staff up. I mean, potentially, I know the messages that went out a couple of weeks ago that your premium has been rolled over, so potentially if you didn't spend all your money, you may have some more money in your budget to invest into sport and into swimming. So now is the time to try and do something different. Now, as there's not many people on the call, I'm not going to ask everyone to put their hand up and all that kind of stuff, but if you're sitting there now and thinking, right, actually, you know what, next term I'm going to do this, all right? And if you're willing to stick it in the chat box, just be brave and just say, next, you know what, I'm going to send all my children Oak Academy this weekend to raise their awareness of school swimming. You know, it could be this weekend, I'm going to contact my Learn to Swim provider and I'm going to tell them what we're doing. You know, so if anyone wants to put something in the chat box and pledge what you're going to do, that'd be lovely. But even if you're just sitting there and thinking, actually, we've always done that, but in September, we're going to do this. We're going to try this. We're going to try something different. Because we've got to do something, or else we're going to lose a generation of swimmers or pupils that, you know, are not at that standard. You know, and as Tanya said earlier, there's 3 year groups potentially that's been affected. So, you know, my message would be at the end, just to try something different. You know, if there's something you can think, oh right, I've picked up on that today. In September, we're going to do this. I'm going to get off my soapbox now and just stop. So if anyone's got any questions, then by all means pop them in the chat box or come off mute. And if you've got if you would like to contact us after today's session, the best way to do it is to use the email address on the screen, schoolswimming@swimming.org. That is monitored by like myself, Lauren, Alex and Ash. So you'll probably get one of us, well, yeah, not probably, you'll definitely get one of us reply to you. All right, unless someone random gets into that inbox. But it's that inbox is always monitored. So use that to any general inquiries, but then odds on you'll get a personal reply back and then you'll have contact with one of us directly. But yeah, if you've got any questions, send them. We can talk about them now. We can go through it now. I think my kids are back from swimming, so all I've got is 3 kids and a grumpy wife inside. So I'm in absolutely no rush whatsoever. So if anybody wants to have a chat now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
We have got Dave. I love reading things like this, always gets me. So Sharon said she's definitely going to have a look into the charter. She hasn't seen that before, which I know I sound biased, but I absolutely love it. And I could rave about it all day long. We're always looking at ways of improving it as well. So anything that you come across, or if you're using it, we're always looking for feedback. To create the best support possible through the charter. But the best thing is that Sharon said she's really going to try and liaise with the local pool regarding their scheme of work as well. And we really do believe that that's key, to have a really good relationship with your swimming lesson provider and make it really clear how you see those swimming lessons, or how the school sees those swimming lessons being delivered across 6 weeks, 8 weeks. I know that's probably your most typical kind of time block, on average, I will state. And then Amanda said she's going to ask year 4 to teach the water safety lesson. I'm going to ask year 4 to teach the water safety lessons before the end of term, especially before the summer holidays. And as Dave mentioned as well, that's fantastic. You can, I don't know how much schoolwork the children would get. I come from a non-children household, so it could be that you encourage that learning through the summer holidays in preparation for returning in September as well. But actually for them to keep an eye out on beach visits or visit to the pools, or really embed that water safety where you can. But that's fantastic to hear. Got quite a few coming through. Natalie said, I'm not sure what age learn the quickest. Oh, I think, in my opinion, I think that's a little bit of every child's individual. I don't think there is an age that learns the quickest. I think.
Yeah, I asked that question just purely because we do a term in year 3, a term in year 4, a term in year 5. And then we do that intervention for our few year 6s that don't. But it does take a lot of the curriculum time up, and also a lot of children, they've done swimming in the club, so it's almost, actually, does everybody need to be going 3 times? It's quite a big commitment to offer it to all 3 years. Or actually, would I be better off, doing it with our year 5s but all year, rather than doing it so spaced out that actually, they don't remember what they learned a year ago. But I like doing it with our year 3s because it does take that fear of water away for children that haven't been swimming before. But
sorry, Natalie, do carry on.
Yeah, I just don't know whether we've got the best provision, or whether it's so drawn out, it's not intense enough.
I would say there's an argument for both, and I know Dave will come in with his own thoughts as well, and anybody else on the call as well. It's not just from mine and Dave's point of view, but it might be worth exploring that opportunity to deliver actually over a longer time, but actually in 1 year group, just for that opportunity for that repetition of a skill to be learned, that actually they're repeating it for a lot longer time, even though it's condensed to a year. Like I said, there are arguments for both setups there. Dave, what are your thoughts on that one? I think that's a really interesting conversation, by the way. I love this sort of topic.
So when they hit year 3, they're 7 to 8 year olds.
Mm-hmm.
So if they haven't been swimming by the time they're 7, then I think we need to do some kind of intervention, because if they get to 8, 9, 10, then the fear's there, and it's really hard to break that kind of fear and that barrier down. So I would try and get them in the water early, years 3, years 4, get them into the water, get them swimming. I would love to sit here now and say every year group should go swimming every single day and all that kind of stuff. but we know that's not going to happen. But I think it is important to get them in the water early, years 3, years 4. And then, as you said, Natalie, using those year 5 and year 6, use them to top up the swimming lessons, you know. And we mentioned about the club swimmers. I think it is important that they do go to swimming for 2 reasons. One is, in a club environment, they put their I'm a club coach as well, and they put their goggles on and they swim up and down. But, you know, if you say to them, right, next week, don't bring your goggles and bring a pair of trousers and a long sleeve top, you know, and it stretches them, and it kind of brings the real world to them, you know, so that could be a benefit to that. And then also it's the social side of things as well. You know, that child might be very good at swimming, and it's good for them to interact with the children and their peers and actually see them in the water. So I think from my point of view, it would be, let's get them in the water years 3, years 4, and then use the rest of the time to top up as needed. So, but as you say, Lauren, we could have a debate about this all evening. So but I don't know if anyone else has got any other kind of comments or the way they operate their lessons, or any other ways that you wanted to talk about, or pop in the chat box. Up to you. Just reading Kevin. Just reading Kev's message. Yeah.
We just want to keep calling him Keith. I don't know where we got that from. Just rename you.
Yeah. I am just also conscious of time and whether we sort of draw it to a close now, but obviously we're happy to stay on and take any other questions. But a big thank you to both Dave and to Lauren for this evening. And obviously it's prompted a few thoughts as well about moving us forward, and obviously given me a bit of work to look at those holiday schemes as well, but I'm sure I can relate to both of you. So Alex, I don't know whether you would be happy to